Hiya, this is Jenny from Just Being Me, and you're listening to the Learning to Love Yourself podcast, the show that inspires you to put yourself first.
Learning to love yourself on the path to happiness. Learning to love yourself on the path to happiness.
Welcome back to the podcast. I am not even sure how today's going to go because I'm with the most amazing Georgie Wilder, and Georgie and I do talk a lot. Well, we talk a lot as in frequency, but also a lot when we're talking together. So this could go one way or t'other, this podcast, couldn't it, Georgie?
It really could go. Yes, who knows what's going to come out, but it's going to be good. It's going to be a stonker.
Buckle up, people, buckle up.
Buckle up.
So, Georgie, you know, the theme of the podcast is learning to love yourself. And you know, you have many stories, I'm sure, inside of you of moments where you've recognized that actually life is being a bit shit at the moment and I need to change this.
Yes.
So
yes.
tell us at least one of them.
Okay. So about 14 years ago, I really wanted to set up a business. I didn't like working for people, and I knew that I had more to offer. And I wanted to set up what is known as a VA business now, but at the time it didn't really exist. And
when you say VA, you mean virtual assistant?
Yeah, as a virtual assistant, as I knew, you know, they are quite common now, but not finding a good one.
But I can imagine that long ago, it's a typical Georgie thing to do, isn't it? Let's go and do something that nobody else is going to do. Right, yes. I'm going to do this.
Yes, but the timings just never seemed to align. Never, it just didn't seem right. I really was desperate to do this, as I knew that I could really offer businesses and business owners a whole new thing that really nobody else was offering out there. And timings didn't allow. And I was just really quite crap at just sorting out the priorities in life with ex-husbands, etc., and children. So life continued for various reasons for years, and
you stayed in employment. You stayed in employment?
I stayed in employment. And didn't follow the passion.
Wow.
And eventually, what is now 8 years ago, I then separated from my ex-husband. That's a whole different story. I then still couldn't follow my dream of setting up this business, as had to keep functioning and working to pay my bills. So roll on to 2021. So we went through COVID. I had enough.
And for those of you that are only listening, Georgie is sitting here giving it the big old wiggle of like, you know, because when Georgie's had enough, she's had enough.
I have had enough. I really had enough. I decided that I was going to quit my NHS job. I decided that I was going to do this bloody business, whether it was come or hell or high water, I was going to do it. And I did. And I got booked out within 4 months. Solid, fully booked.
Unsurprisingly, if you know Georgie.
Unsurprisingly, yeah. But it didn't quite go the way that I had anticipated. It has done me really well. It's allowed me to spend more time and freedom with my children and my partner, who also works from home. But it's also allowed me to find my real passion. And my real passion actually is to help people.
And that came from doing the VA work because of the fact that you didn't necessarily stick to the VA work?
Yeah, I didn't really stick to it. It actually ended up being more of an online business manager. And I progressed to that very, very quickly. which I actually didn't like, funny enough. I thought I did, but I didn't.
So you weren't feeling the passion.
I wasn't feeling that passion, but I knew that I had to help people. So that business has paved its way into what is now Wild, Her, Him and Them, because it allowed me to do my training as an NLP coach. And knowing what I know throughout my life of dealing with people with things that are going on, it is what I am meant to do. And I know that that is what I am meant to do in my heart of hearts, is to help people in whatever shape or form it is.
So I'm kind of hearing within this story that, you know, basically you had a bit of a dream, and the dream was just to start off with was just get away from working for somebody else and their values, because other people's values, you know, they do trample all over ours sometime.
Absolutely.
And something as big as the NHS as well, that's a massive trample, isn't it? You know,
It is. And I'd worked through the NHS with in COVID, and I was seconded over to what was then called the discharge team, from the exec team over to the discharge team. COVID hit, and the discharge team was responsible for moving everybody that was a long stay patient in hospital out back into the community, whether it be a nursing home or whatever. So I was then seconded back over to the exec's office to then have to work back over there and report into them with my boss. And it was hard. We were working, I think if there'd have been 8 days more, another day in a more, we would have done it. We were working 7 days a week, and we were working 12, 13, 14-hour days to try and counteract what we knew was coming. And it did come, and it did hit, and I burnt out, and I just couldn't take it anymore. I really could not take working for somebody anymore, you know, and just not, it's not even the recognition, but it's just a thank you.
and that's the difficulties, isn't it? Because we all have different value sets, don't we?
We do indeed.
And, you know, it's high up on my value set, recognition that actually somebody says thank you for something that I've done. Not massive thank yous, but just an acknowledgement of, actually, yes, you've done that nice thing, or you did this for me, or whatever it is.
No,
just that acknowledgement, so that, you know, I kind of know, right, yes, thank you very much. That gives me what I need, and I'm moving on. And, you know, I own that. But actually, if you need that sort of thing, working for a big system,
yes, a big system that's broken,
isn't going to give it to you, is it? Or wherever you are, if your values are not being supported by the place you're in the wrong place, and you need to work your way out. And that's kind of your story, isn't it? In the fact of, you knew you had to work your way out.
Absolutely.
But actually it didn't become important enough until you burnt out.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. I mean, initially, before I took that NHS job, I was going to start the business. But then I got persuaded by a recruitment agency to just go and do it. It'll only be for a few weeks, and you can do this in the meantime. And it ended up being 3 years later, and I was, you know, at that point. Do I regret doing the NHS? No, not really, because I learned a lot.
But would you, looking back now, would you have liked to have left a little bit earlier, or do you think you had to go to the end there to actually push you past the point and get yourself sorted in a different way?
I needed to finish my employed working career at a point where I just said, no, I'm not doing this anymore.
Yeah.
And now I would really I would do anything to not work for an employer again. I wouldn't do it. It's just not worth my brain power, you know. And now, you know, being so many years later, I've survived. I've built businesses. I've built 3 or 4 businesses in the time that I've not been working, and I've had a whale of a time, really.
And you've learnt an awful lot as well, and now you've found your passion. You've really kicked into your passion, haven't you?
Yes, I have.
Again,
I
for
have,
those who are only listening, not watching, Georgie has got a big smile on the face. In fact, what I am going to do, because it feels really, really wrong to me that we are sat here. Normally, Georgie and I are sat here with silly filters on when we're talking to each other. So, Georgie, put your unicorn horn back on, please, because she took it off because this is a podcast and I've got to be serious. And actually, that's just not who Georgie is.
No, it's not.
That's not fair. Georgie can be very serious, but there's always a humour. And there we go. That's better. Thank you very much. So we now have the unicorn horn and ears and flowers on, and we feel like Georgie feels like I'm talking to Georgie.
Please do not put your moustache on.
Yes. Normally, I like to be have my glasses and my moustache on, but we'll stick with where I am for the minute because I can't work out how to do that without stopping and sorting stuff out. So you have now retrained to be an NLP practitioner.
Yeah, and a hypnotherapist.
And a hypnoheritist.
A hypnoheritist. I like that. I like that a lot.
You can steal it. It's yours, darling. It's yours. And your direction is going in completely. Well, it's not, I suppose, NHS. It's still supporting people, isn't it? But it's doing it the Georgie way.
It's doing it the Georgie way, definitely.
Because you had another trauma that hit your life, didn't you?
Yes, my partner. 18 months ago, nearly 2 years ago now, we had a bit of a shock because he wasn't sleeping very well, and we went to the doctors and they said, "No, it's just a trapped nerve. You'll be all right. You'll go for physiotherapy. You'll be fine." So, I just kept pushing him to go back to the doctors because it wasn't right. He was getting up 3 or 4 times a night, and he got diagnosed eventually with prostate cancer, which was an advanced prostate cancer. For anybody that wants to know the medical terms, it was a Gleason score of 9, and it was advanced cancer, but still within the prostate. So we decided not to go for surgery. We decided that we would go down the hormone therapy route, and it's been a nightmare. It's been horrendous.
And we're 2 weeks ago celebrated all treatment finished. All
treatment finished 2 weeks ago. So the treatment that he's been through was hormone therapy. That didn't work. So we then got called back and they immediately started high dose chemotherapy, which was 7 weeks every week. And he then had to have an operation because it damaged his urinal flow, and I can't remember the name of it. And then he did 7.5 weeks every day, Monday to Friday, of radiotherapy. And 2 weeks ago we finished treatment.
Woohoo!
So we have just received a letter, just putting it out there, for the 31st of December as our consultation with the consultant. So looking forward to 2025.
Absolutely. And so your new business is wrapped around supporting people who have had a traumatic event or traumatic diagnosis.
Yes, absolutely. When Gordon got diagnosed, I was immediately pulled to wanting to support women with their partner getting diagnosed with prostate cancer, because there is a lot of things that happen within a relationship. So it's called the couples cancer, but I believe that relates to a lot of other cancers within a couple, breast cancer, ovarian cancer, vulva cancer, testicular cancer. All of these, they all affect a relationship. And it's massive. It's massive for the couple. It's massive for the partner who's not going through that trauma. But because you feel quite helpless that you can't do anything to support, yet you don't get back what you had in your relationship. It completely changes the dynamic of a relationship. And humour, I have found, as to be one of the main things that have got us through. And straight talking and being open and honest about how we feel has really been, and having those difficult conversations. So yeah,
it's not easy, is it? It's not an easy thing. And sometimes what you get from having been through the cancer process myself earlier on this year, sometimes you get the right person that's talking to you, and other times you don't within the NHS, and that's as much about me as it is about them, in the fact that actually the way that they want me to deal with the way they wanted me to deal with it was not the way I wanted to deal with it at all. And so that was quite hard going. And actually having somebody, knowing your style and knowing the basis of NLP. So for anybody that doesn't know what NLP is, neuro linguistic programming, Georgie and I both trained in that. Knowing how that works, to be able to have somebody that isn't going to get involved in all the content of it, but actually just going to hear you and give you guiding questions to understand what you're going through
and help you deal with it, and
for you to understand what you're going through makes, I look back on that situation and just think, oh, I wish I'd had a Georgie, because that would have been so much better than very rushed, very overworked nurses who are amazing. That my instinct is to go, oh God, I don't want to put any more burden on them, actually just want to go home. And then of course, once you're home, Georgie, you're sitting with people who are equally affected by this, and their world's been turned upside down. So to have somebody that's just not emotionally involved with you,
but completely understands.
Because you've been there, you've done it.
Absolutely. I mean, when we got the diagnosis, we got called in for an appointment on a Sunday, Jenny, and the consultant said to us, oh, well, you've got cancer, don't you? No.
Yeah.
I mean, like, talk about drop a 10-ton of bricks on you, and it's things like that when you get dropped literally from a great height, thinking, oh, it'd be fine. To then suddenly get well, you have cancer, don't you? And you know that it's advanced, aggressive cancer. No.
And where'd you go from that? At that point, I mean, I know that when they told me, which wasn't overly dissimilar, I mean, I'm not sure how you get it in gently and slowly, but really everything after that was, I don't really remember hearing.
No, and then they barge you with a load of information. And I know I've said load quite a lot, but they do. It's, if 1 in 2 people are going to go through this, and that is a really scary statistic in my mind, and it's not just the person that's going through this, it's the partner that's going through this, it's the business owner that just doesn't know whether to continue with their business, it's the staff that are involved in the business if the business owner decides to tell them. They are all affected by,
and it's also how do you pay the bills? It's a knock-on effect of things, isn't it? How do you pay the bills? Because let's face it, the government sick pay is something like £92 a week. How you've got to keep going, you've got to keep paying your bills if you're self-employed, and it's a lot of thought processes you've got to go through all of a sudden, isn't it?
Absolutely. And the amount of information you get dropped on, you can't process it all at once, because all you're thinking is, I've got cancer, he's got cancer, she's got cancer, shit, they've got cancer, I've got do you know what I mean? That's all that's going through.
And,
It's
you
not
know,
everything else that's
you've also got the kids and the grandkids. If you know, it isn't the, you know, and actually, who's going to walk the dog on this day when we're going to be spending the whole of this day going, you know,
chemotherapy.
yeah, there's a whole process through it, isn't it? You know, it's a massive thing. It's a lot more than just the cancer. It's life, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. The whole of your life is affected by one conversation that could be given to you really quite badly. And
you would hope that it comes to you nicely, but the reality is when you say this on a regular basis to people, for you it's you know, if you're that person giving out the news, it's a normal give out, isn't it? You know,
it is.
so
But
sometimes it's not with as much compassion as it should be.
No, and I think that's very sad. I think it's very sad, because I think every diagnosis should be treated with compassion and kindness.
And it's every diagnosis should be given for whatever it is, whatever severity level.
Yeah.
You know, because dismissing something because it's not so severe doesn't mean to say it's not any more destructive to that person hearing it. You know, it's still quite life-changing, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So you getting your business and deciding you're going to work in this arena is giving another option for people, isn't it?
Absolutely. I just want to be that person, that third party that somebody can relate to, come to, talk to. I can support them, give guidance, and just be that person that's on the other end, that just pick them up when they're feeling like they're going to drop. You know, I'm not going to be the one, you know, when you're leaning backwards thinking you're going to fall, I'm going to be the one that's holding them up.
Yeah. Love it, Georgie. Love it. I'm going to say thank you ever so much, Georgie, and everything will be below, because I think we've done really, really well to get this far without any major happening, as does tend to happen with the two of us. So thank you so much, Georgie, for talking to me today. Anybody wants to know any more about what Georgie's doing, just drop down below, look her up on socials, and go check her out, because you know it's well needed what Georgie does. It is well needed.
Thank you, Jenny, and thank you for letting me come on your podcast. I've really enjoyed it. It's my first podcast, so I'm a podcast virgin for those out there.
Oh, I'm glad it was with me, Georgie. I'm so glad it's with me. I'm going to go now before it gets really bad. Bye.
Bye.
Are you feeling stuck? Do you want to be able to create a better conversation with yourself, but just don't know where to start? I offer a free 20-minute session to see where you want to be and how to get you there. Just click on the link below. Remember, it's free. Book your space. It could change your life. Thanks for listening today. If you'd like to know more, you can find all the links down below. Oh, and don't forget to press subscribe so you can catch the next one. See you soon.